the Cromwell Community Board for 2025. Not sure where all those years have gone. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Waitangi Day, all of those things. Wonderful to see people back here. Welcome to people who have come in the public gallery and to members of the media and anyone who may be joining us online. We have no apologies for our meeting today. Mary is joining us online, so she is present for the meeting, and so that means that we are kicking off with our public forum. And welcome to Martin and Jennifer from the Cromwell Museum. Talk about the need for funding. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Welcome. Madam Chair, thank you for inviting us to come along. It was suggested by council that we make this presentation, and I just wanted to be comfortable that you felt this was the appropriate time to talk about some of our funding issues, or whether you wanted to do it outside the meeting. But I'm happy to talk them through.
We would really love to hear from you. We've already had, obviously, we started our conversations in December as a group of elected members with our executive team. Okay. We've had a brief conversation before you come in today, and obviously we want to be at the point where we're able to make some decisions about what we can do moving forward to support you.
Well, could I just start by saying that it was very gratifying to see in last week's bulletin that the words said that the roof is going on the new Cromwell Museum. It was good to see that actually mentioned in the bulletin, because that's the first mention that we've actually had up until this time. We're here to talk about emergency funding for the museum. We're going to run out of cash March, April this year. The reasons for this are because we have normally been reliant on significant grant funding from lotteries for the last 6 years, of approximately $20,000 plus a year, and lotteries have pulled back on their funding, as you all know, and we're only now getting half that amount, that is the reason behind this request. We have also received grants from pub charities and to Papa over the years, but that's for mainly project-related expenses. The grant we get from the council is just over $40,000 a year, and that it's been pretty much that level since the time of the last long-term plan discussions back in 2021, I think, where we pushed it up. We were successful in an application to get it pushed up to from some 30,000 to 40,000, and there's been a very modest increase, which doesn't match the rate of inflation in the last year. So we have about 3 months headroom left in our accounts, and we have to keep the museum open, of course. We have to pay our director. We have to pay our other expenses that we incur each month. And the next funding application the next funding from the council is not scheduled until the 1st of July this year, so we're running out of time. Now, we're looking for $25,000 through to the end of the financial year. And it was suggested to me that we look at going down the route of applying for a community grant. But looking at the timing of these community grants, they close in early March. I think they're not discussed with council until the May council meeting. And I read somewhere that they only apply for projects that commence in the next financial year. So that route might not be the most acceptable for us. So, I mean, basically we're here today to get the community board to recommend to council that emergency funding be made available to Cromwell Museum to see us through until the next financial year. However, we've also submitted a proposal to the council for a restructuring of the Cromwell Museum, contingent upon it moving into the new building. The new building is going to require a new professional approach to the management of the museum and its collections. It'll be the main draw card for the new building in Melbourne Terrace, I'm sure, and one of the only places that's going to be open and staffed every day. We have about 2,800 hours of volunteer time in any one year, and the volunteer model is one that we're going to continue with. So a very significant volunteer model with about 30 volunteers, which we've managed to retain over the years, mainly through the good offices of Jennifer and others. We envisage a role for the director becoming a full-time employed position with a normal range of benefits that would apply. This would involve the trust taking on the role of an employer with all the responsibilities, and we need to be funded from the council to assume this role. Now, it's the council's museum, or it's the community board / council's museum, and you have a responsibility to keep the museum operating, certainly in the short term, but in the longer term, we need to have the appropriate model set up to enable the museum to go forward and to do the exciting things that we have in mind. You'll be aware that the concept design for the new museum has already been agreed. We've used, the council has used a Wellington-based company called Story Inc., and we're very pleased with it. The expectation is that we need to swing into action very soon with the detailed design. We only have a little over, we've got less than 18 months to do the planning, and in that time, we have to pack up all our space. We need to ensure that the new exhibition space is completed, and we need to accomplish the move. So, Jennifer, do you want to actually add to that what you see as the sort of major task over the next 12 months anyway? Yeah.
I kind of envisage that the museum may have to close in the middle of this year in order to get our collection packed up, and also items identified for the new display. And that will take quite a lot of time and expertise and management to make sure that everything is accounted for, that we have a really good process in place to manage the collection. And also there's a lot of work still to be done on the content development of each display that we're looking at for the new museum. And at the moment, that blueprint, I suppose, is looking really promising and really exciting with some of the interactives that we're working on. So there's a few more layers that need to happen in that time as well. So yeah, there's still a lot to be done, and we really hope that by the middle of this year that we'll be able to see our way forward to the next stage in this really transition to the new building.
But to come back to my original point, we need to get through to the end of this financial year, and that's really why I'm here today to talk to you. So thank you, Madam Chair. Have an answer to questions.
Just a point of clarification. When I said that we were looking at what decisions we can make, of course, we can't make a decision around this table about funding. We can make decisions about what we will ask staff to do next in terms of whether there's what opportunities there may be within council funding for us to find this, and of course it would need to then go to council.
Yes,
So
I do understand
so
that.
just making sure that we're really clear there, that we can't sit here and go, oh yes, let's just bundle up some cash and give it to you, which thank you for outlining the situation you currently find yourselves in. We know that we've got a public workshop later on today, which is us looking at operating models for the hall. So I'm sure that some of this will come up in there as well in terms of what ongoing and forward-thinking operating models might look like. We're also aware that you're working particularly hard at the moment because there's an anticipation of a change to something that's quite different from the type of operation that you're running. So there's probably a lot of additional time being spent on some of those things. So we have an awareness of those pressures that are on you at the moment. Does anybody else around our table have questions for Martin and Jennifer? Yes.
Thank you. Department also need to find funding, and they look for about $35 million worth of philanthropic funding each year. I just wondered if you received any that type of funding locally, whether that's an avenue that's been explored.
They do have specific grants available for museums up and down the country, and generally the amounts are only in the order of $1,000 to $2,000 for specific types of project work.
I think you're asking about local philanthropic businesses. Yeah, we have actually talked about some local businesses that we hope might be interested in supporting our museum, especially for specific displays. So we'll be able to match some businesses with some historical displays for the museum. So yeah, we are definitely looking at.
We approached the Aotea Gaming Trust recently to see if they were able to fund what were basically operating expenses, but they said no, they only fund basically project work, and they only fund work that is within the realm of councils to fund. So if the council's there to fund it, then they won't fund it. We've also been very active over the last few months in approaching local businesses to see if we can encourage them to make an endowment to the museum. And while we haven't got any money in hand yet, we certainly raised the profile of the museum around most of the major businesses at Cromwell. And we will be going back to them some later stage to follow up on that. So we've been trying very hard to sort of break through, as it were.
And aside from the business aspect, which sounds great and promising, has an approach been made or has it been put out there to the local community that in terms of individual funding from locals?
There's been one or two individuals that were approached as part of the endowment project, but there hasn't been a sort of a funding drive amongst the ratepayers of Cromwell. That is something that was at the back of our minds. But these things need to be thought through fairly carefully. We need to have some specific goals in mind if we're going to do that sort of thing, because people like funding for a particular project rather than just funding for operational costs. You know.
The people around the table. Thank you. I think we've got real clarity about what your position is and what it is that you're seeking, and that will help us to give some direction about what we might be able to do next.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's us to page 7 and the confirmation of the minutes from the previous meeting. Seems to be a long time ago because it was held on the 9th of December. Discussion. Seconder. Sarah, thank you, Neil. All in favour?
Okay.
Takes us to page 16 and item 25.1.1, which is the declarations of interest, and a reminder for you all to stand aside from participation in any item where there may be a conflict or perceived conflict of interest. Then on to 25.1.2.
Before you do that, Madam Chair, I have made a change to mine. Just advise Sarah that I'm no longer a trustee or secretary of the Central Otago Emergency, Clyde District Emergency Rescue Trust. The organisation's been dissolved, and also it's been updated recently to reflect the fact that I don't work for Contact anymore. I work for myself.
And also, I've made an amendment to mine actually, and in the fact that I'm no longer president of the Cromwell Golf Club, that I have been appointed to the board, and I'm currently chair of that board. And I've also actually resigned from the Cromwell Football Club committee member.
Right. Okay.
Both of those.
They will be noted. They will be shown. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that update, gentlemen. And then that takes us to item 25.1.2 on page 19, which is the land investment strategy. So Saskia.
Thank you very much. Thank you, board, for considering this paper. Look, a couple of apologies first. I was unexpectedly called away and trying to manage this online, and I do see some good photos in there, one in particular. And I was meant to also attach the original proposal about how we were going to do this work as appendix 1. So apologies for those oversights, but hopefully it doesn't impact too much on today. So essentially, why I'm presenting this today is really to get a sense check that we're heading in the right direction. So we have had 2 workshops on developing up the strategy. The first one really was to get agreement about how we were going to go about it. And then after lots of busy time at the end of the year, a whole lot of LTP stuff, you guys were presented with a workshop around developing really the principles and outcomes. So I thought it was quite prudent really to bring that back and just do a bit of a sense check before we get carried away and develop all the content that we're heading in the right direction. So that's essentially today. And also I thought it would be quite a good idea just to let council know this works the way and sort of how it started to shape up. And just before I throw it open for questions and feedback, also just to note the district vision work that this will need to tie to is yet to be finalised by council. Given that we've got this work to do and we want, obviously, once this is shaped up, to bring you the Bannockburn division proposal about how we're going to develop that land, what I thought was better, rather than delaying this piece of work, is that we could get it going, noting that we will probably need to make some adjustments when the district vision comes through. What the consultants based it on was the organisational vision. So it will need some changes there, but in the essence is very similar. But I just thought rather than delaying this work, we can retrofit that. So hopefully there's a level of comfort around the board with that. But if not, I can push pause on this work until council has approved the district vision and bring it back to you. So yeah, open it up for feedback, comments.
This is a Cromwell-centric document, so just wondering how much the council-wide vision is going to have an influence on it.
So in terms of it will always naturally be a Cromwell-centric strategy, because it is with the endowment land, that's for the betterment of the Cromwell Borough. However, any good strategy, I would hope that if it's got really good foundations, that we could actually after the council decision in time, that they could potentially use it as a foundation too. So, but in terms of the strategy, we're keen to take it to council to give them the sight of it, is while it's this strategy is for the Cromwell land, of course only council can approve the sale of it, and I'd hate for us to get all the way through this work and then we put the strategy up to council and council will reaction to some elements of it. So while this is a broad piece of work, I think there is a bit of making sure council's happy with the overall approach with it.
Mary, what's your question?
Kia ora. I just have some questions regarding the
Mary, we can't hear you. Are you there?
Really? I'm unmuted.
Can't hear you, Mary.
Yeah, can you hear me now? There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can now.
Perfect. Perfect. There we go. I just had some questions regarding the wording of some of the investment principles. Is this the right time to discuss them, or is there another time to
Absolutely. And so today, and also when this is not set in stone, so even after today, when we develop the content, it's still going to come back to this board as a draft, and you'll get to review it then. So once we get the meat on the bones, we might go, oh, this isn't quite feeling right. What we want is more emphasis on X. So absolutely, Mary, feedback today, and so there'll be other opportunities. And just in light of Gareth's comment earlier, in terms of part of the motivation to get it to you all and to kind of run it parallel with the district vision piece of work and sort of retrofit if we need to, is that there will come a time when we can't be bringing up big papers to this board as we go into that round-out period before the election. So hence why also my motivation for today. So yes, feed away, Mary.
Okay, sure thing. I've just got a couple of notes. Let me just bring them up. Yeah. Okay. So so objective 2, investment principle 2, which is the purpose of endowment land, or the original purpose of endowment land. I thought perhaps, is it worth us providing, it might be been in there, but I'm not entirely sure, a statement or a quote defining the original purpose of the endowment land?
Yep, we can add that in.
Perfect.
Generally,
Yeah, but we can
I
get
know
if
we don't have that, and then everyone's got a different interpretation of the original purpose of endowment land.
Yeah, we can add that in. Not a problem.
Okay, great. So number 3, the recognise that there may be immediate imperatives. That's that investment principle. I thought that the focus of long-term strategic benefit is subjective, and that different stakeholders, the community board, the community, and also the council might have competing definitions of what the long-term strategic benefit is. And so that's also potentially another phrase that might need defining.
I guess I think that's a really good point, and maybe is when we develop this up and put the body together, is that the board actually has a conversation about what this board right now believe are the long-term strategic objectives, and we actually identify it there, Mary, within the content.
Cool. So the number 4, the to recognise and represent our current and future community, captured in the Cromwell Master Plan and associated spatial plan. The potential risk of this, and if Louise is in the room, she'll understand, like, it's really risky to rely on external documents because the external documents may change. And so it's potential that the Cromwell Master Plan might be revised, and spatial plan would definitely be revised over time. And so strict adherence to a plan could prevent the adaptability of challenges or new opportunities not anticipated in the original prepared documents. And so I just thought it's worth considering, like, how to ensure that the principle is, say, ongoing and flexible rather than locked into, say, historical vision that might become outdated.
We can definitely look at the wording there. My memory does seem like a while ago now, doesn't it? Is that in the course of the workshop that was raised to give effect to those, because there's a lot of work put into the master plan document, the spatial planning by the board, and that we wanted the strategy to reflect that, like the visions. Cromwell Town Centre obviously come up quite strongly in the workshop, but definitely we can say captured in current master plan, spatial plan, and future planning documents related to Cromwell, or something like that, to enable future flexibility.
I'd go one step further and actually appendix those relevant documents to this and then they are relevant for the strategy, and then when they change, you revise your strategy accordingly.
Yeah.
And I'd go one step further and in relation to that endowment land, and actually have that appendix as well, each little bit we've got of endowment land, so it's part of the document, so it's quite clear. And then again, when you sell it off, whatever you do to it, then it can come off. But, and it's not, don't forget too, it's not just land, actually, it's a fund as well.
Yeah.
So we've got, we've got all the different land holdings, so we've got the information, we've seen that, we've got the access to that, but I think that should be part of the strategy as well. And that way you've got, yes, it'll be big, it'll be bulky, but actually it's a complete document and it's relevant. There's nothing worse than picking it up and then we go everywhere else to find, I haven't got this document, I don't know what it says.
Yeah.
So the final one, which I really like, and I know that the board has commented like multiple times over the last year about the use of workshops. So I like that we've used the decisions evidence-based and transparent, but potentially we're also aware that some investment decisions do require confidentiality. Potentially there's just a couple of suggestions. A tiered transparency model could be implemented where, say, the principles disclosed, but sensitive negotiations remain confidential, and then potentially have a decision-making framework which qualifies as evidence-based, because it's not entirely clear just in that one statement. Decisions are evidence-based. What is evidence?
So, in relation to your first comment there, Mary, this will serve as a framework for decision makings for this board and future boards. Any negotiation that Gareth and his team do will naturally be confidential as part. This will really set the framework for how the board want to invest the land. Where the strategic priorities are, but the actual, when we get to selling the land and negotiating, that's a really good point, and we can make it clear in the strategy. That level of detail would never be in the strategy. That would be this board discussing, right, this next parcel of land's up. This is how we want to approach it, which can, and you're right, when you're selling stuff like that, there's a real sweet spot between having that in confidential to enable Gareth and his team to do their thing. So we'll make sure that's really clear so that the public don't expect that to be released. And in relation to your second comment around the evidence based and what that would mean, and we can definitely clarify it. It would be exactly the the planning documents of the time. It would be what the board are hearing from the community as priorities. It will be the long-term planning process when this board says these are our critical priorities. So definitely that's my understanding of that we can, in the body of the content, add in further descriptions around what the evidence base would be. But to an earlier point, I don't think we want to ring fence it too much and try and keep that flexible to the board of the day, being able to use the evidence they feel is necessary to give life to the strategy. But really good comments. Thank you.
Okay, cool. I just got a couple of, that's my principle. So I've got a couple of comments regarding the outcomes. Should we stay on the principles and then come back to the outcomes, or do you just want me to keep going?
Anybody else, have you got things that you want to add to this section in the principles conversation?
I've got page 1 to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where it says words like ensure the best value is achieved, is that monetary value? Like, if it is or isn't, I think we need to be deliberate on that, because good value and good community outcomes are not necessarily financial.
Yeah.
If I may, Joe, I think this one was tested through the courts with Queenstown, and they wanted to give endowment land for a particular, and it came back as value being monetary value was but we
can definitely
yeah.
Because in the past there's been land swaps happen, right? And that's not entirely monetary, but it's also good value, is it?
Land swap. Do you have a land swap?
So you're
Is there
referring to Murray Terrace land swaps there?
I wasn't part of it, you can tell.
No, that's not endowment.
No, we've used endowment money to buy land, so therefore the land, so they take the cash out of the endowment and put it into land.
Yeah, right.
That's, and the basis of the aid of borough funds. And there's, that it goes back to Peter's test about saying, well, what is value? Is it just cold hard cash?
So there hasn't been land swaps.
I can recall.
So land swaps.
I didn't say no, those main chairs, and that wasn't.
Yeah, I don't believe. We certainly have bought land.
Cemetery Road in the land swap, that was it,
Yeah, it was, so that we swapped,
Yeah, we did.
we swapped endowment land for property at Murray Terrace.
This is what I'm getting at.
But actually not, you're not swapping, you're realising the value of endowment land and you're investing in endowment funds. So it's not actually a swap.
Yeah.
It looks like it, but it's actually just an investment.
So does the sale and purchase agreement have values on it? Money?
Yeah.
A few values.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Right. So it's here on page 1, in summary, the investment strategy will acknowledge the need to proceed strategically, but I don't think we should lose sight of proceeding immediately. It's almost 12 months since we promised to develop that land payback council to get the hall built, and nothing really tangibly has happened.
Yeah, and definitely, so again, part of the motivation for coming today, we didn't want to put up, and Gareth and Phil have really advanced the thinking about doing subdivision, and in fact it's the same consultants we're using. We didn't want to present that to you and without having done the strategy work piece, but if this is, by the end of the conversation with some edits and stuff, if this is feeling we're in the right direction, and then the consultants on standby to get going, we could potentially, as to kind of run them a web of parallel, Gareth, I need to catch up about this, that essentially that we are presenting you draft plans alongside the draft strategy, so you can see how they're all starting to come together, because I do agree, land sales has been an area that would be good if we moved a wee bit faster on various reasons why. We haven't, obviously plan changes and all that had to go through. Obviously lots of competing priorities in Gareth's team, but Gareth and I are really keen to progress this work with pace, as long as the board approves of that.
Sweet. And in developing a macro view of the Cromwell endowment land asset base, is that things like when we use money from endowment land to buy other land, to what extent is that tagged to the endowment land rather than just general council pool? And
that's where we'd have to be quite careful as the board of the day is making these decisions and running the money through, and we might need to get legal advice on that. The macro view, I think when I was talking to Mark and Brad, they were really quite keen when they were developing this, even though it's about the benefit endowment land, is that they're actually thinking broader as well around other like Girab and the like, that some of this we could be thinking as a whole, even though this is obviously particularly about endowment land, because you would hope that whatever land strategy we have, we would like council, that it really is robust and could be applied in more than one situation.
A lot of the endowment land's already been developed and already been reinvested. So the macro view of the endowment holding is getting historic and slushy and old now, before the term endowment was front and centre with all these discussions.
Yeah, has it? I'm not sure that it has.
Yeah.
So when we bought the Naughty House, we bought that with endowment fund. Yeah, so that's now endowment land.
Yeah. But is the definition that clear cut?
I actually think we might need that.
We might need
Well, possibly, but that's the thinking at the time was saying we've now converted cash into the asset. It's still the endowment.
Yeah,
it can't be anything but. It's not now freehold that you can then say I can bypass the endowment now. We're going to sell it McNulty House and then spend it on.
That's right. You've bought a strategic asset.
So it's still endowment. It's now endowment.
Cromwell Memorial Hall, the new Cromwell Memorial Hall, the land on it, that's council land. Endowment funding will ultimately pay for the Cromwell Memorial Hall. Where does that sit legally?
So yeah, we probably, as part of this, do need to test the waters on some of that stuff. Yeah,
It's been done.
yeah.
Yeah, so like Neil can list off stuff that endowment land's been used to purchase. Where is that list? Like, it was just good to see that.
I think it's pretty simple. The list you've seen in down the land, the only one that I can recall that we've bought apart from the one where the Cemetery Road, that's the only two that, that I can recall off the top of my head. But I think we've always been very careful, and the staff have made sure that we have not strayed from spending the endowment land on buying other property and not calling it endowment land.
Sweet, that's good.
I don't stand to be corrected, but I'm pretty sure.
Where are you up to, Wally? Got more?
No, we'll carry on. There's more, but we'll carry on.
Cool. Before I circle back to Mary, is there anyone else who wishes to pick up on any of this? No. Circling back to you, Mary.
Oh, perfect. Oh no, I'm off mute again.
Yeah, we can hear you this time.
Okay, so the investment outcomes, I suppose sustainable growth could be subjective. So potentially, another definition. I know potentially even linking back to the spatial plan or the master plan. Probably the spatial plan will have a definition, but we need a definition of what is sustainable growth, what level of development is appropriate on whose sides. It's been a long going argument in the Central Lakes district, and as opposed to newcomers and old timers, and what level of growth is appropriate. And so just that we've got an agreed definition of sustainable growth is relatively essential.
So this will come as we present the plans to you, because of course we can't flood the market for all the land on at once. That doesn't make financial sense, right? So sustainable growth for the Bannockburn industrial land will be, obviously Gareth and Phil will give us advice. The board of the day will make some decisions around how much of that you want to release, and it will be based on a whole lot of market factors at the time. So I can have a look at that, Mary, but I think sustainable growth will be determined by the environment at the time.
Okay. I'm not sure if that's, I think we might even need then a statement saying it just for such a key phrase, sustainable growth, for it to be subjective. I'm not sure if that's ideal. Just because every single person I bet in this room has a different interpretation of what sustainable growth might be.
I can do with that. You're right in that respect, that it's an interpretation of but
If it's a policy, we should be developing a policy that can sustain lots of different opinions.
Yeah.
Let's be careful. This is a strategy. This is not a policy.
Well, yes,
It's the council about the policy that might need to support the strategy. My view is reasonably simple at this moment. This is a strategy. This is a start. And
find it down.
You're not going to solutionise it all now. You probably have to run it for a year. So I'm going to have some suggestions that say this needs a review every year. Blah, 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 when we get it through, and I think the council will pick it up. So I don't, Mary's not wrong with what she's saying, but I'm just not sure that you want to necessarily answer that question just yet.
Or
in this document right now.
I agree with that. It's not necessarily something that needs to be answered right now. I just think it's something to think about, that having an unclear definition, unclear phrase such as that is not correct wording. It's not correct practice to draft outcomes that have that much of a vast interpretation.
And the strategy could actually recognise exactly that issue. Say something that needs to be, because it makes it a living, live document. That would be, I think, the best way of picking it up at this stage, to say, well, hey, there's some food for thought or stuff to be mindful of into the future. Then you really end up with a living document as well that actually is worth its print.
Because that section also talks about the Cromwell Master Plan again, so we need to be careful that that's the Cromwell Master Plan or any subsequent plan.
Okay. So the second one, economic resilience. just established industries and then promotion of a diversified and resilient local economy. That's also not super well defined either. As I said, I'm sure everyone in this room, especially people that have been Cromwell born and bred, will have a different interpretation of what established industries might be. And for instance, there could be startup software engineers working out of Cromwell for the last 10 years. We're not aware of them. Is that an established industry or not? Because it's future technology and it's not what, say, the local community will consider as established. Or because it's just, I say, this is my opinion, and as I said, everyone in this room is different. My opinion of, say, Cromwell, an established industry would be cherries and vineyards, but that's just me. And I think defining that would be quite crucial, because I'm sure if you just went and asked everyone on the street what they would consider an established industry in Cromwell, we'd have a really, really broad range. And so I just think it's important to be inclusive.
So and definitely look at working on that one, Mary. My memory of that conversation is really, as we go forward and develop up the Bannockburn industrial site, is that we open it up to current businesses, and it's just not new people coming into Cromwell. There might be opportunities where people want to relocate their business to the new area. So that was my understanding of that, but would the board like me to go back and work on that one?
I'm just raising it.
The bullet points do have a range of established and investment and encouraging a range of commercial. So while we may have established industries that have been around for quite a long time that aren't listed in the brackets, in a bullet pointed list, does it need really critical definition, or is the fact that there's also investment, range of commercial and industrial activities, housing availability, seek opportunities, diversify? I mean, those things sort of talk to there being new things coming in as well, don't they?
Can we just take away those brackets? Because I'm uncomfortable looking at them without agriculture mentioned, but instead of going for a bullet point list, can we just get rid of those brackets? Then we don't have to list the other 6 to go with those 4.
Yeah.
The whole idea is that keeping the scope wide enough, you don't make it right at your back.
Yeah.
You just didn't know it was there.
You didn't know it was there and don't have unintended consequences. It's only a strategy, so it's not the end of the world. But
yeah.
And I think, for my Madam Chair, point about investment, what's council investment, community board investment? Well, I think you brought up, Wally, that we may want to develop some land, at least the land, as opposed to selling anything.
Yeah. Where it talks here about provision of land for investment in critical infrastructure, I'm not sure if it's just under this economic resilience, but I've just got this overhanging query about how distributisation works with this spend and this strategy.
So with distributisation, everything bar the grants, as you're aware, is now district funded. So 3 waters, any upgrade to Cromwell, well, actually 3 waters was already distributised. Parks is a good example. Any upgrade to, I don't know, big fruit or whatever already proposed will now be covered by all district ratepayers, which actually makes it really interesting financially as we work through this in future years. Most of your costs will get covered by the district. So there could be decisions for this board as we do not want to wait for year 10 for council to do blah. We want to have a conversation with council. We want this prioritised in year 2. And given it's so important for us, we're prepared to as part of our investment strategy for land to say to council, use the endowment land for this, please. We don't want to wait for district funding. So you're right, there's definitely going to be, as we go through it, conversations with this board around stuff that would actually provide district funding about whether you prioritise and bring it through. And it might be things that you can't get through council for the competing priorities. Cromwell Town Centre, take that as an example. It might be the ambitions of this board can't be quite met at the council table with all the competing priorities there. And this board says to council, we want to use the endowment funds for that. So you're right, it's going to be a balance as we move through it.
You mentioned a project that might happen in 10 years that we want to bring forward. What then happens to that money that we were going to give in 10 years' time?
Well, that would be a sacrifice this board would make, right? You basically would say to council, we don't want to wait for the 10 years for the district to fund it. We think it's so important, we want our endowment land to do it. So that would be conversation with the board and the council the day to work that through. But it's pretty hard without concrete examples to see how that might work, but that would be political decision making.
So as an example, let's say you guys wanted destination play space to be, the icon in Crompton. And there was earmarked for year 10, and you guys said, well, if we bring it in now, using endowment means to fund it, you could. And the advantage of that, even though you'd lose the district money, is the fact that you get all the benefits associated with that play space over the next 10 years. That's kind of the way you want it.
Can the council instruct the board to use? If you agree?
Now, as we work through it, assuming Three Waters goes to a CCO, we're going to be in the really interesting position we're not currently in, is having too much money, which will be primarily land sales from Cromwell. I can't imagine council saying you need to use that, but that will be a future community board and council conversation, which we can't predict would be today. And maybe I can't say that that wouldn't happen, but what we do know is that money cannot be used for the rest of the district. It does need to be used in Cromwell. So it would definitely be for the betterment of Cromwell, but whether or not politically in the future.
But there is a possibility that council could say, sorry guys, you've got all this money, we're not going to actually fund whatever it is, whatever that project is, and you've got that. If you want it done, you have to
Potentially.
I don't know if you can actually guard against that in a strategy document, however.
No, that's probably not much of the detail, but yeah.
Yeah. Can't say that might not happen in future years.
I'd expect that we'd see reports coming from the start of the board saying you could fund this using your endowment money.
Yeah.
And the strategy you've got reflects that being appropriate, the policies that support it are right. And actually, instead of us saying, like, why don't we use endowment land, the start point is saying, this is a good use of that land. And then you get to have that conversation, debate, whatever, and work it through. In council, the way of working going forward isn't about the council telling the board what they're going to do. That's not what the delegations say. It says that we've got a big part of it and come to us first. Someone will make the suggestion, and we have to, into the future, can look at, novel's the wrong word, but, the non-traditional ways, how we used to fund stuff. And the endowment, that's what we're having the strategy. So what can we use it for? How can we make it work?
And I suppose it's a little bit like the general reserves funds. The council has never instructed Cromwell that you must use your general reserves for the whole. That was a decision of this community board that got approved at the council table. So the current operation, I can't see anything, but who knows what the political world that used to come will look like.
I'm aware that time is slipping past us. There's been some really good discussion and some, obviously, thank you to the board for going really in depth into your reading of this report so that you've been able to bring those changes and thinking to the table today. Is there further stuff that we need to talk about at this stage on this draft? Because can you remind me what happens next?
So I was thinking, but again, it doesn't have to be at the next council meeting, that it would be good just to let council know this is happening, these are sort of the principles underpinning it. and obviously we'll need to go away and minutes on the basis of this conversation. And I need to talk to consultants. I would like to get something to your March meeting that's fleshed out. So Gareth and I will take it offline and just when we bring the Bannockburn subdivision plan to you, but that will be in the near future as well. So, and again, in March, if we still draft, if we're thinking, hey, this is feeling right, there's opportunity.
So there's plenty of opportunity for further discussion on this, but if we think that the general direction looks right, are we ready to go back to page 19, or is there further discussion to be had around the table?
Just one thing, as we get towards the final strategy, there's a lot of wording in this one about what board members' thoughts were around the table and whatnot. As a strategy, as a standalone document, I think this, what we're looking at could be cut down to a third of what the actual crux of the.
That's the strategy. This was really the workshop outcome. So even though it's called investment principle and outcome, but this report that consultants have done really was to reflect the conversation from the last workshop. So yeah, absolutely right. You would never be quoting board members in a strategy. It will be necessary, quite high level. And it needs to be, you don't want it long either. It needs to be digestible. So yeah.
And certainly from when I think about the, the whiteboard that we had going there, that managed to bring it down into these headings and bullet points quite successfully. So it's a good starting point.
I think at 4 pages, no more would be a good end result.
So with what Saskia you just said, the recommendation though says this is now for us to say that we're agree with the draft principles and it can go to council, but you're saying it's going to come back to us first?
Well, that's really for direction. What I was thinking is to give early sight with council at the next meeting that this work was underway and this was the sort of the draft sort of framework. But if the board wants me to hold off until you've seen it again.
Tell them. I think the recommendation makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so it doesn't say that the council's going to adopt it. They're just bringing it up to speed where we are. Yeah.
So I think recommendation makes sense to me about moving it forward. This reflects the workshop.
Yeah.
Basically, what this is taking what you did in the workshop, brings it into the process of actually formally moving along.
Yeah.
Yeah, to see how much scrutiny council give it. Hopefully, lots.
All right. Recommendations are on page 19. A, that the board receives the report, accepts the level of significance. B, agrees with the draft principles and outcomes for the strategy as detailed in the report. Do we need to put subject to amendments?
Yeah, it's option 2.
Yeah.
There were a couple that go away and tidy up today's conversation.
And C, agrees that these draft principles and outcomes form the basis of the strategy and that work continues to develop the strategy. D, recommends to council that they note that work has begun on the land investment strategy and that the current draft principle and outcomes will underpin the strategy.
With the amendment.
With amendment. So C and D need to have the words with amendments from today's discussion. Can you put those up for us so we can achieve it? We've got our brains around it. Yes. Saskia's definitely got copious notes. Yes, about it. So A receives a report that stays the same, agrees with the draft principles and outcomes for the strategy as detailed in the report. Does that need to have subject to amendments there as well? Yeah. That's that'll do. That's fine. Yeah, our items can see that. Right, happiness. That mover and seconder level happiness. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Cheryl. All in favour?
Aye.
And That takes us on to page 36 in the Mayor's report, and I'm aware that the Mayor will need to zoom away once she has given us her report today, so. Hannah,
So like
the floor is yours.
Madam Chair. Welcome to 2025. By the time we make each community board meeting, we will actually be quite far into 2025. But it is exciting to be back into it for another year, which will be a big one. The council team has been working hard over the past few months to produce a consultation document for our long-term plan to get it out to the public mid-March. This has been quite the exercise, with questions around water being in, then out, now and again, as we endeavour to get an accurate document that also complies with audit requirements. The consultation has already generated a lot of community interest and chat, not least because of the inclusion of almost all council boards in the mix for divestment options. I acknowledge that some of these were included against the wishes of the respective community boards. It's been great to see communities already discussing what is important for them to retain and why, and I hope this continues into submissions for the long-term plan. There is absolutely the ability for halls or facilities to come back in through this process, and the recent loss of the Roxbury Entertainment Centre will also no doubt factor into these discussions. Council has also begun the process of discussing a regional deal for Queenstown Lakes District and Otago regional councils. Some of this will rely on the work already undertaken as part of Queenstown's Urban Growth Partnership, and some will be more specific to Central Otago. The next step for this is the Light Touch proposal, which is due at the end of February. This will contain agreed two priorities across themes such as transport and health, rather than individual projects at this stage. In an upcoming joint meeting between the councillors from all three councils, which Neil advises is the first time in memory that any such joint meeting has taken place, and I think this is pretty exciting for combined progress of our areas, especially with how interconnected our people are these days. I will keep you updated on what the priorities look like as they are worked through. Last weekend was a fantastic schedule of events in Central Otago, with the Central Otago AMP show at Omako on Saturday and the New Zealand Grand Prix running across the weekend right here at Highlands. It was a fantastic event showcasing what an incredible asset we have on the edge of town. I spoke with several young car enthusiasts who were excited to get up close to the action with some of their favourite drivers from supercars, including a potential future Formula One driver, which was pretty cool. And I noted there are not many places where you can take a selfie and chat with an athlete immediately before their big race or game. And the atmosphere was certainly impressive down on the grid prior to the start of the Grand Prix. Last week, I attended the joint Otago South and Merrill Forum in Queenstown, where we were also joined by Runaka from around the South Island. This was a great opportunity to discuss challenges and opportunities coming up this year, and where we can align on our work for communities. We also had the chance to meet with the newly minted Minister for the South Island, James Meagher. The Minister is from Timaru, so it's a great start that he knows where Central Otago is, and we look forward to welcoming them to our district soon. On the morning of Waitangi Day, Queenstown hosted a wonderful event that was a true celebration of unity. Peter and I did that away slightly early once we heard about the fire at Roxburgh, but it was great to have that time connecting with Manawa representatives. On Friday, I met with Minister Mark Pearson to highlight some of the challenges and opportunities coming up for Central Otago, including the difficulties between aligning audit LTP timelines and those coming from the Taumata Arawai for wastewater standards. It's frustrating that there is not more cohesion between government departments and what they are asking us to achieve by designated date. The Minister acknowledged this makes our lives quite difficult. All in all, it has been an excellent busy start to the year. I'm very much looking forward to kicking off Mayor Coffee and Chats at the end of next week in Terrace and then Cromwell, and also look forward to working with all of you this year as we progress the operating model for the Cromwell Hall. Very exciting. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Do we have a mover and a seconder for Tony's report, please? Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Wally. All in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Very much appreciate that very full rundown of all the things that are coming up and that you're currently work plan. So that's really good. Thank you very much for that. My report, obviously, we've mostly had Christmas between our previous meeting. And of course, I think for all of us, it becomes a time over summer when we showcase this wonderful district to all our friends and family who come from far and wide to come and join us and participate in that. I've had family from the UK over the last little while, and we have certainly taken every opportunity to be in all sorts of different places, on bikes, watching car racing, in vineyards, doing our restaurants, and doing our lakes. So my focus obviously just currently has been on getting school year started, and just like in local government, education has a huge amount of change happening for it, starting at the beginning of this year with quite considerable changes to foundational curriculums in English and mathematics. So we are also trying to work through changes and timelines that don't necessarily match up with what is achievable for our organisation. So that's me. I'm looking forward to a really positive year for us. We know that the hall is well in progress. We know that we're going to get this investment strategy up and running. We've got our endowment land and the development at Cemetery Road, Bannockburn Road, in process. We're looking forward to seeing what the plans, how that's going in terms of the Gera estate, and then looking forward to what might come about out of the long-term plan process, and of course elections later on this year, which may change the faces around this table, depending on how people are feeling about standing again. So that's my report today. Over in a second if that as well.
Yep.
Thanks, Lloyd. Thanks, Cheryl. All in favour? Members' reports. Who would like to start first today?
First.
Lovely. Thank you, Bob.
I've got very little to report actually, as you know, I've actually been, unfortunately been unwell again, spent a lot of time in Dunedin Hospital. I just would like to say that an unusual event that actually happened was that my good lady wife sent an email to the Minister of Health to remind him that the new Dunedin Hospital was not just for the purposes of looking after the people of Dunedin, but for the whole district. And he responded within the hour, personally, which I was really quite surprised about, and said that and pointed out that he did actually mention that in his announcement that the hospital was going to go ahead. I was quite pleased to hear that. I also attended the Grand Prix at the Highlands Motorsport Park yesterday. Fantastic event, very well organised, and a great showcase for both the facility there and also for Central Otago. You know, there were attendees actually taking part, and of course a lot of spectators who came from all over the world to attend that. So a fantastic event. That's my report.
Thanks, Bob.
Yes.
Neil.
Hello.
Yes.
I was wondering which way you're going to go. So just since our last meeting, hearings panels had a couple of meetings. The 10th of December one had a subdivision, or an 8-lot subdivision up in Ardgow Road, which is interesting. There's some rural land up there, or in excess of 8 hectares. Council meeting 18th of December, which was held, guess where? Right in this very room.
Yes.
I did come.
Better have some more room, and those files should go. Just a thought.
Yeah, there's just something that's just.
So the things that came out of that was the delegations register was updates were approved back in the 18th December council meeting. That Cheryl will do the stuff out of her portfolio. There was mention of the Cromwell Airstrip helipad to be established, and with where that was at. Note that the Peter Beck foundation that he chairs is basically taking up all the shortfalls of funding for that, so that's a done deal. So that's a happening thing very soon. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see just what that means going forward, whether we'll still have helicopters landing in our streets. I think we might have one today, or not. Maybe.
There were reports of one happening today.
That did happen. It was in well, but anyway,
Somewhere
somewhere close.
Cecil Reserve.
Oh, yeah.
I see Anderson Reserve, yes, because that's behind the house where the people were for quite a while. Yeah, that's what it was. There's some consultation going on at the moment about the alcohol restrictions in public places by law that people should be aware of. Too significant in there, I don't think. There'll be another council meeting on the 29th of January. Update was given on the Little Valley Bridge, which is getting an upgrade pretty soon to try and make it fit for purpose going forward. Pleasing to see. Sure, I'll do that, so I won't. Well, it's all about stuff that Cheryl's going to do. Oh, no, and the community board grants budgets were approved for inclusion in the LTP. Oh, and the council, more importantly, I suppose, did latest revised risk management policy, also its revised procurement policy, and the most significant thing I think was the draft consultation document for the long-term plan was adopted. So that's pretty significant working forward and coming up. Otherwise, nothing else to report, I don't think.
Thank you.
Well, I stayed pretty local over the Christmas New Year break. Played golf in Alexandra, went to the Speedway for the Town and Country Club fishing comp. Did some gold digging in Lawrence as far as I got over that break. Being approached by the Friends of Cromwell Cemetery just for further clarification on how soon they can get some real action there with tidying the place up. And I was contacted by Caroline Tamblin from Dunstan Hospital Operating Group Incorporated Society, just seeing if board members would want to be appointed to that group, or anyone the board knows of that would want to be involved. So, being not my cup of tea as a gut reaction, but anyone else that's keen, put your hand up.
Okay, I worked through the holiday period, so I didn't get a holiday. And like my mother spent an awful lot of the holiday time in hospital, so I spent a lot of time down in Dunedin. But yeah, at the 29th of January meeting, yeah, it was the January wastewater compliance update, which it's all moving along quite nicely. There was 2 procurement papers, one for the Alexandra water renewals and one for the Cromwell water treatment plant and Warfield upgrade. So those had closed and they've got the still working through negotiations, I think. There was 2 reports, one on Grenfell and the other on for Pettiora. This is relating to the installation of a cartridge and ultraviolet treatment solution, and that's to meet the New Zealand drinking quality, water quality assurance rules. They're both moving forward, so that's all really. Apart from that, I missed the historic precinct meeting because I was down with my office. Yeah, so apart from that, I've just been working. No holiday.
Thanks for taking the comment.
Mary, back over to you.
Kia ora. Oh, no. Kia ora. Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, you can hear me?
Yeah.
Great. Yep, I've had it's great hearing about everyone's summers. I've also had a busy summer period. I just wanted to reflect on an experience I've been privileged to be involved with recently, is a trip to Outward Bound up in Anakiwa, and a reflection of that is how many youth are there, how many rangatahi, and how beneficial the experience could be for someone and I was interested to know whether the council has a program that that may offer a space for a Central Otago youth to participate in such an activity, given the benefits it would provide them. It's an expensive undertaking, but the benefits in terms of self-awareness and growth are invaluable, and it would be fantastic to know whether, say, a grant or anything like that is available for youth of the district to participate in. Yeah.
Thank you, Mary. Councillor Brown has stepped out. I know the high school here does have provision for grants or scholarships for kids to participate in Outward Bound. I know of 3 who were provided those scholarships in 2024, so I would imagine that they've got a similar number available for Cromwell Youth again, and I would hope that the other high schools is similar.
CODC doesn't because it's about individuals. However, Otago Community Trust puts in funding to hopefully allow young people from across the district be able to participate when costs is included.
So Lions get involved in what's it?
They've got
Lila?
yeah.
Do they do that?
They have another. They have a leadership.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Is it Rotary? Yes, Rotary.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
So there are those opportunities, but yes, I do know that the secondary school here certainly provided opportunities in the last year or so for kids to participate. But I agree, it's probably one of those incredible opportunities that if you get it, you take it with both hands, and so lucky you being able to get away and do that.
Yes, I know they actually have a master's program for those in the room that are no longer youth. So I would highly recommend it.
What are you trying to say, Mary?
I'm including myself in the master's level, everybody, just for clarification. I was not one of the youth.
Can I have a mover and a seconder for members' reports, please? Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Wally. All in favour? Thank you, team. That takes us to our February governance reports and updates that are on page 39. Any questions, comments you have around those? Thank you for that bit of an update there on the Care Ave estate. So we hope that will start appearing again on status updates so that we've got that ongoing data there up to that project. Thank you there. Thanks. I have a mover and a seconder for that report to be received, please. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Cheryl. All in favour? Unbelievable favour, wasn't it? Yeah. And that takes us to page 47 and an update on the play strategy. All right, come and join us.
The only part from the revision.
There is some able assistant.
Some treats.
No,
we need to.
Tuesday night market.
Very cute lunchbox story. Like this, very good sense.
Yeah.
Oh, well, let me have a look. You might want to put a sensory.
Not the cell phone, I see at the bottom.
Oh, it's this. Oh, well, that's that.
That's a good place. Quickly, reckon you do something.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
You'll get instructions.
Have you regretted your choice?
I can get something else.
If that's fine. Yeah. And let's do it.
Yeah.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I guess one little bit that I just wanted to add in there, and it was actually Rebecca that made this point. We were trying to figure out how does the district vision really line up with this, and I guess very simply put, the district vision process, it told us that access to our environment for play and recreation was one of the things that people loved the most about living here. So it's simple as that. People care about this stuff. And yeah, that's the first update. It's just like a sprinkle of information, and there's going to be more to come, because I guess this process, we're trying to really make sure that we all understand what play means, because it's sort of more than meets the eye. Gordy, do you?
No, going well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we all love to play. I get to play with 300 kids every day, so.
No, we're not doing that.
Quite privileged in that respect.
We put in playground in one bus.
No.
I missed the first bit. I'm just checking on my anything.
Well, the world's your oyster.
Just a bad idea.
I'd like to report that I was in the Southern District over the weekend, and I actually played on the Flying Fox at Manapuri.
So now it's
Couldn't resist.
action. Now it's got some tape around it. It works.
I had no restrictions about anything about age or anything on it, so I thought I'd give it a crack.
But you are a snapdragon on the floor.
No, I thought it would. I thought it would. But yeah, so it was quite timely. It was kind of cool. I haven't done this for a long time. I thought this could really hurt, especially when I got to the stop where I thought, I'm going to hit that pole. And then there's this big thing on the cable that stopped you, and then I swung and I thought, I'm lucky I'm still here and not over there somewhere. Right.
We got a photo this week. We need it now.
Yeah.
I was looking on my phone.
Checklists, I'll be seeing.
I was looking on my phone and I haven't got the photo, but there was video. So,
Oh, we can get a stick.
Okay, well, that's perfect.
but it's not the district, is it?
Doesn't matter.
We can work with that.
We
Yeah.
can Photoshop.
Yeah, don't Photoshop in the.
But then you have me think about some of the stuff we did when we were younger,
Around on that.
and some of the stuff that I did when I was younger, you wouldn't do that.
Well, that's going to be a part of the consultation, or a part of when we start trying to English feedback. Is asking people to look back to their past, so it's the past, present, and the future. And the idea of it, for me, I think about like my best playground was playing on hay bales. That doesn't get any better than that. So everyone has their own, their own good memories. So.
In our day, we used to have our playgrounds on concrete.
Yeah.
And if you had to,
You got the scars? Yeah.
I went to a primary school that didn't have the grass. And the grass was too wet to go on to.
We do have kids and trees.
Yes.
We have a lot of things in arms as well, don't we? And it's really formulated to those.
There's been a couple, 2 injuries affecting trees that have required further medical assistance, and they,
Teach them to be more facial.
playground equipment, which is, safety tested, is more likely to produce something.
With currently hands for this.
The rules are that if you have a raised table, you climb over the tree, you have
Yes. Did you get that?
Okay, it's got arrows and everything over and it's still not here.
I used to fund it.
Yeah, we missed it. I got it.
It is.
Hey.
Oh, was it that good?
Well, it's close.
Thank you. We don't have these in classrooms, however, because, The other secondary stuff, yes, but these, we
We need to move the report.
do. Report is on page 40.
Oh, well,
Thank you. And somebody else, thanks, Bob. Favour. And the date of the next meeting is Tuesday, the 25th of March. And we are adjourning the meeting. Please have a quick comfort break, and then we move into our public workshops.
Yeah. That's great. Someone put that for break.
get on with this because we are running late as, you know, we're trying not to.
Yeah, it's fun much. Yeah, and before any fancy control of that, so the old shop, it's always been a bloody.
Glad you found something decent for this job. This isn't good.
Yeah. Shall we, please?
So we're going to do this in December, but we ran out of time, and so we've fast forwarded it to now. And I think you guys are going to do a bit of a pre-read, and then if you have any questions, you're going to ring me on New Year's Eve or pop round to my house. But that didn't happen.
Did you on New Year's Eve?
I know. You're surprised I answered.
You didn't fix it though. She's really mad. The lady with the rice that posted on Facebook on New Year's Eve. Did what every good elected member would do and got in touch.
And this is a public workshop, so I'll remind you of that we also have people online potentially viewing us and having our discussions. Well, I hope so, because this is exciting stuff.
Very much, yeah. So what we committed to doing was to do a workshop every 6 weeks at this, just to give an overview of the progress and how we're tracking, because we are building from an operational model, we are sort of building it while we're flying and kind of thing. So, and things are moving at a pretty good rate of knots. We'll go through the presentation that we've got here, and then at the end of the presentation, we'll just give you a bit of an overview of some of the key things that we've just been working on, in particular this year, just so you can get a feel for all the work that's kind of going on behind the scenes. And then, as I guess time allows, we'll get the board to sort of make a resolution to various things, make sure that they're, you know, I guess locked in places where the board brings to life. So to kick off with, Garrett's going to give us just in 5 minutes a bit of a snapshot of, I guess, the build progress in the last couple of months, and you know, I guess where we're at, and I guess maybe what the next sort of 6 weeks looks like for the build.
So effectively, the guys had a really good break over Christmas and New Year. They sort of came back in a skeleton crew on the 6th of January, but really limited staff, and then sort of really got into it on the 13th. They've effectively almost finished framing the 2 sides. So the smaller side's not the auditorium, so where the museum's going to be housed and where all the meeting rooms are going to be housed. And the roof is on for that one. The tilt slabs obviously went up before Christmas, but they've now got a lot more tilt slabs coming in, and then all the stitch joints are being filled up as we speak. So there's a lot of, they had to work out the methodology on the stitch joints as they were going along. And if you go down to the site, you can actually you can see it quite clearly, even from outside of the fence line, and how it's all morphed together to get it maximum shape. I suppose going forward, we're going to start with structural steel that's going to go to the auditorium. And then it's going to be really built top down. So if you think about it, in space constraints, you've got roof on, and then you'll start with the technical galleries and then move down to the mezzanine level, and then obviously down to the ground level. The reason they do that is so that they don't restrict themselves, because if they started with mezzanine level and then they have to do technical galleries, it starts becoming quite messy. So they'll build it from the top down, and once they close in, people aren't going to see much progress going on, but that's when we're going to actually organise a tour for you guys. So we'll whip you through the building to actually see all the behind the scenes work that's going on internally. So the project is checking 100% well, 100% on time, and 100% on budget.
Nice. That's open. Thank you.
It's now out of the ground and out of anything risky in terms of budget.
Yep. So there's always associated risk. So effectively, when they do design, and what happens in reality when you get to on the ground works, there might be some disparities. It happens. So between the construction company, the engineers, and the design team, they've got to make it work. But effectively, it names risk now, unless we find a fundamental flaw that we're going to need a variation for. But effectively, we should be completely clear. It's a fixed price contract, and then moving forward.
Sort of continues to close the rest of that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
For the build gets on.
Yeah.
Anything that goes wrong at this point will be on either design or construction, then, right?
Yeah.
Sounds like their problem, not ours.
It is, but what you don't want to do, what is put people out of business. So, you've got to be responsible in this respect. So we've taken on a partnership effectively with Naylors, with Jazz Max and the team. And that's why we've got to view things holistically. If you put it as one-sided, and you're putting people out of business, that's not the reputation that we kind of want to produce. So whatever we face going forward, it will be done as a team. But it will completely inform the board all the way up front and the council moving forward.
And a good quality finished product at the end as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they still, as they're going through it, looking for cost savings, where it's applicable.
Looks big, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's a lot of concrete.
We were lucky enough to do it on site for a week or so ago. And it's,
When you look up.
yeah.
So when you get to site, as long as they haven't closed too much in, what I would recommend is going up, touching it on slab. Because you look at it and you think, oh, rough piece of concrete.
No.
Surprised how smooth it was. Right? And just when you're standing there and you do the visual up, you actually put things into perspective. A 12-metre high tilt slab is a big piece.
And I think to pick up from that is we've started to go into the detail of how this is operated. There's a real technical bit of the componentry and everything that's in there is world class. Like the boom that we are getting is phenomenal. So the stage rigging and things like that is up to a ton that it can hold. So, you are looking at really high quality stuff. And so when we're starting to piece together what that product will look like, when it comes to exporting and bringing, shows, things like that. And I think just the level of spec that's in that building will allow us to bring some of the best into which is pretty cool, to go through something that is world class. And obviously technology advances so quick, but we're going to have a very more field to start with, which is awesome. And that's some of the things that you'll see us as a team bringing to life as well, what this product offers to community groups right through to hopefully concerts and things like that. I keep throwing around Taylor Swift, who hasn't replied yet, but she will. Yeah.
Harassment chat.
Just working out. Yeah.
That means no, David.
Silence said no to the Cromwell airstrip.
No, well.
So can I get, thanks, Sarah. So just what we're going to cover today is what we're going to cover during December. So we sort of agreed on regular updates to the board. We'll be here every 6 months. The three of us just giving an update. Sorry, 6 weeks.
Otherwise, we've got a couple of updates.
Only got something once more.
The key thing we just covered today is just resourcing of the hall, and the things that sort of worked out is we're going to need to start in that journey probably a little bit sooner than what we thought. Just we need to make sure our internal guides are there for handover when it comes to our technical handover and commissioning. Just an overview of the funding as well. So we socialised that towards the end of last year, and I've just got a slide on there to get a bit more of an overview to just sort of understand, I guess, some of the costs that are driving that. And get a little bit of a feel for the community of what that looks like. And I'm happy to sort of compare it to some of our other facilities like the pool, just to get a bit of an understanding of what that is. We've talked very loosely around CCO versus council run. There's sort of a mix up and down the country of CCO versus council run. I've got a slide in there on the benefits and of both. The approach right now is to be council run for the first couple of years of this running, and then for us to do a sort of a full review after 2 years and see how it's operating against what we thought might happen and I guess, the best outcome for the community. We're just going to run through the next steps, and then we'll run through just some key themes of some of the things that we're working on. We're putting together a little bit of a timeline, which we'll more publicly sort of socialise at the next update for everybody. So if we go to the next slide, Sarah. This was based on just going through some of the reading and things, and it's been quite good to come a little bit greenfields myself, going through some of the reading and some of the consultation work that was done a few years ago. I guess the key thing from yourselves in the community was for it to be really sort of community used, and that sort of 70-30 is I guess a goal that I have for us is to have the community, I guess community groups and community people using it 70% of the time and 30% for commercial usage. And that might be bringing in, let's say, company conferences, company Christmas parties, concerts, shows, all of that kind of stuff. That's sort of the ratio that we were sort of going for, and I just sort of want to test that with anyone if anyone's got an allergic reaction to that sort of 70-30 approach.
I guess that's partly based on how much that 30 is going to pay.
Yeah.
And it was also about 70% is that could be free. What are they going to pay as well?
So I think we'll have a workshop together on that as well around what the costs might be associated with, and we've just been doing a bit of research on other sort of halls and things around the country, and there is a chart, for say the gala hall, it might be for a community group like a school or something, it might be a few $100 versus a big concert that comes in might be say 5,000 to 10,000 kind of thing, So that'll be for us probably a workshop that we have with yourselves, and then that we would go forward to council and be part of the fees and charges for, I guess, next year when it comes around.
I think the challenge there will be to make sure that the ratepayer who's paying a big chunk is the community.
Yeah.
And to pay again.
Yeah.
You start to say, well, have we got the balance right? And it's a bit saying, well, where's the benefit?
Yeah.
But where's the cost already coming from? That's going to be into your third bullet point, sorry, your second bullet point about the funding, how it's based.
Yeah.
But you're right, we need to work that through.
Yeah.
And you would expect if you are solely commercial, you'll pay. Because you haven't already paid elsewhere, you're not part of it, not part of the scheme as such.
Point two there is just the example I give for our halls. That's how our halls currently run. So, every adult that goes through the door is about $7, and the community offsets it with say $14 in rates. It's sort of the fish and chip ratio and adults going through the door for us. So just to give a bit of a guide from a community point of view. But yeah, that'll be a key workshop for us to kind of run through together. Year one, we just talked very lightly in the last catch up around having real community focus, trying to get everybody through the door, and making sure that sort of first couple of months is a really cool couple of months for the hall, and whether it's concerts and open nights and things like that to really showcase what the community has built. And then I guess this is just a little bit of feedback that sort of came through consultation documents and talking to some of you as well, is for this facility to be a 7-day-a-week facility, averaging 74-hour weeks, and later nights, so expecting conferences and if the cafes open later and the cinemas open later and things like that. So late nights would be Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And depending on what time, say if it's a wedding or something, part of the venue would be open through to, I guess, the end of license, which might be about that night or so, just depending on, I guess, how we work out alcohol license and things like that. But roughly 74-hour operating hours is what it would look like per week. And then operating on about 360, which is how we run our other facilities, just sort of major stat dates that we close for. So just that first slide, a bit of a feel, does that sort of feel about right to everybody for how we'd like the centre to be utilised? It's a fairly good utilisation rate. Like that.
I think that's got a hold on
It's a goal. It's
It's goal, yeah. It is, yeah.
That wasn't a criticism, it's just that you've got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
It starts aspirational and sounds a good place to start.
Yeah.
You only hope you end up on the right side of that.
Yeah.
Forward.
Yeah. And so that's where the numbers, if we go to the next slide, the funding numbers, that's how they've fed into it, the sort of 74-hour. Sorry, it's probably a bit small. So first year, just to give a bit of an understanding of how we're going to warm up into this, we start, I guess, commissioning and handover in February 2026. And so given it's quite a technical build, we're going to want some kind of AV and ops tech, so an AV and IS type person who knows how to run the building.
So maybe it's audio visual.
Thanks, Gareth. And then an operational guy as well who knows how to pull everything together. And so those two people are generally quite critical roles in these buildings. They know sort of they've got the, I guess, the road or the car's manual on how to run the building and how to get the best out of it. And so given it's a brand new building and our build and design team will be going through commissioning from about that February phase, that will be sort of a key milestone for us to start getting people in the role to have the building essentially open to the public from 1 July. So the staffing cost that you see there is essentially, an overarching manager, somebody to look after museum exhibitions and I guess curating of the space, and these sort of technical roles that I talked about as well. So we'd look to employ those sort of starting probably in the next 6 months for the first role, and then the rest of the roles would be a sliding scale into sort of then we open right through to on the ground staff who would be there running things day to day. The offset of, so we've got sort of total cost there, and then the net revenue will come back to, I've got to stop saying sorry, that's going to be a goal for this year. We'll come back to this group and get some direction from you just to check your comfort levels. There's a cafe and cinema. Just looking around the country, probably the best way to start those is to be able to lease the two out together to a sort of whether they're a commercial caterer, cafe operator, cinema operator. There's a few people that have started coming out of the woodwork and started contacting us. And the questions they have been asking is that would it be a cafe, kitchen, cinema lease agreement so that they could, make it worthwhile for them. And so we just have to work through some of that and work through, I guess, the lease amount that we would get and work with some of our property team on what that would look like from the lease revenue and what we need to do there. So we are in the early days of that, but that's essentially the first year leasing is roughly what you're seeing, and a little bit of income coming in. I haven't put large numbers for revenue in the first year. That sort of starts to kick in from year 2 through to year 5 or 6, where we start to see these things come into maturity. And that level of maturity that we see there is roughly on par with other event centres around New Zealand that are around about the same size as us, around that 3,000 square metres. They're roughly operating on sort of $500,000 revenue, whether it's through exhibitions, leasing, gala nights, shows, concerts, people sponsoring rooms, local people sponsoring rooms here, local businesses sponsoring rooms, sort of all of that kind of stuff. That's where they roughly sit from a revenue point of view. And obviously we can try and drive that a little bit harder in future years once we have a bit of an understanding of how that's going for us. Then the operational cost. So there's sort of 100 in the first year, and then there's things like electricity, all the sort of basis of running a hall. There's some marketing costs in there, things like that to sort of really bring the business to life. And the total sort of operating costs sit on average across there at around about 1.5 million. And you can see the rates component of that sits at around about $1 million a year into it under the current model. And that's on par with how we operate our swimming pools too. So our pools are about 1.6-ish to our bigger pools are about 1.6-ish to run, and they're offset by about 400,000 to 500,000 in revenue. So just a little bit of a feel. And then just another couple of pieces in there around the loan. So there's interest in there, which I guess we'll just work through the long-term plan if that interest component would be capitalised as part of the building. And then the 3 stages of depreciation. So being a technical build, that's sort of that 10, anything up to 10 years has to be replaced, which is generally going to be mechanical, technical, technology type things. Your 10 to 30 years is probably more your repainting and all of those major things. And then up to 50 or 100 years is probably more your rebuild, major evolution of the building. So it just gives a little bit of a feel of what that will look like. Is there any questions on that slide? I don't want to go too far into the details. There's quite a lot of work behind it, just based on other centres of the same size around New Zealand, and some of the stuff that Rationale did in the earlier days. But essentially, we've taken this as based on, I guess, Ashburton, Tauranga, Hart, include them as sort of a mishmash of all four to create this.
So one of the opportunities and potential targets in terms of reducing those costs could be the interest online, which means pay the principal or sooner.
Yeah.
If things work out.
Yeah.
So that's, and you'd have to say that unless there's some sound reason why you don't do that, that should always be a priority. That would represent a worst case scenario.
Yeah.
The best case scenario is that in FY20 it's gone.
Yeah.
Because you sold the land without killing the market or whatever.
Yeah. Cool. Just to give a little bit of a feel around council run versus CCR, just I guess some of the benefits, but it is going to be a new facility and not one that I guess the Central Otago district's ever had before, and to operate as a service for our community as well. So left-hand side, just keeping it close to council, given it's a brand new building, there'll be things we have to iron out over the first year and, you know, bringing the team and getting it comfortable with operating together. There's obviously no CCO cost. If we set up a CCO, we have to do a few things. We have to consult with the community on it first, a new CCO, and there's quite a bit being consulted on in our community over the next sort of 12 months with water and obviously getting a fair bit of stuff in the LCP as well. If you have a CCO, there's obviously a commercial board that comes with overheads and paying your board and all of that kind of stuff that goes with it too. So I guess just from a direction point of view is for our council to keep running it, particularly years 1 to 3 of being open with an idea of doing a review after year 2 on how the facility is running, could have run, you know, more efficiently in any other ways. That's our approach, and you know, if everyone's comfortable with that, we'll keep going up that route. Sweet, easy, cool. Just quickly note on that funding slide, Martin talked about sort of a museum exhibition curation type person. I've got funding in there that includes a person to be able to oversee all of that in that salaries line. And that salaries line, while looking at it, that does include our overheads that come with council as well. So that's things like HR support, you know, IS support from a laptop point of view and things like that. So yeah, just to make sure that there's a bit of clarity on that. If we go forward a couple of slides here, this one here. So we sort of went through the consultation documents that was done in 2021, and I guess there was 5 clear goals in there, and I just wanted to check with this community board as well, is that we're comfortable with these clear goals for what success would look like for them. So there's a clear vision of why the community, why this all exists, and we'll workshop with that with you at a future date, but really clear about why it exists, what we want to make sure it does for our community. So that the community sees it as theirs, and I guess they're proud of it. They're proud of having a really cool facility that's there. Connection to the land, the history, and we've done a lot of work obviously on our regional identity and just making sure that people, you know, there's a lot of design components in the building that represent the unique landscape and architecture of Central Otago. So having that as a, you know, a clear goal as well. The community's excited about it, wants to be part of it. And then finally, it's put some Cromwell on the map a little bit, so it's national awareness about, hey, here's Cromwell coming, visit us to be part of us. So we see sort of the 5 clear goals. Are you guys comfortable with that? Would you like to add to that? Give us any sort of further case, you know, have to give us feedback now. It could be something you think about over the next 6-week period. If you'd like to see more goals in there.
I don't think more goals is useful. I think you might start muddying it for you.
Cool.
Obviously, the thing about those goals is the scope.
Yep. Yep.
And if it turns out something comes up that's not reflected in those goals, then that's not a reason not to consider it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think for most stuff that you talk about doing, those goals can accommodate for that.
Awesome.
And again, it's one of those things that once it's up and working, you'll find things you didn't know about that are going to happen or not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Should be done around most of the day.
Yeah. That's it. already.
What hasn't he done?
All right, so just, I guess, next steps, which we've sort of started working through, given this was from December, is we're just getting clear on our timeline, so our 18-month timeline through to go live, and I guess just sharing that sort of at a high level with yourselves and the community. So, very soon that building's going to have all the walls up and everything, so the community won't see as much action going on, probably 12 months or so as they're working internally. So that's where we'll start to ramp up our comms and awareness of bringing the operational model to life, but also, I guess, some of the technical detail and why this building exists to life as well. And then, just the facility utilisation around spaces to lease, and then how we're going to operate them, and I guess a little bit on the ground there as well. So just with that, we can keep that slide up, Sarah, but I'm just going to run through a little bit of a timeline that we've been putting together as a little bit of a team, and just go through some of the key themes and get a feel of what's happening behind the scenes. So defining why we're building this facility and how it connects to as many people as possible in the community. The funding model that we've just sort of talked about. Workshop here, but also workshop with council. Sarah is one of the portfolio leads on community experience, for which I guess I report into. And I think with that, it'd be really handy to look to have Sarah come along to some of our monthly catch-up meetings if you have that space, and just for half an hour. And then at least, it'd be great to have that connection from the community board if that was something everybody was comfortable with.
Give us invites to stuff, if we can't make it, we won't keep.
Cool.
But do invite us to stuff.
Awesome. That's that direction. Employees going to help me bring it to life, which we've done. Which is cool. Setting your budgets. Yeah, true. Yeah, at the table.
I appreciate
it. Peter likes to remind me of that still stops at these.
Yeah. You can hide behind him. So you'll be right.
Yes, you can.
So just setting budgets, sort of really, I'm comfortable who those budgets are. I think, the margin of error of say 5% on those, but compared to where everybody else sits in the market, I'm pretty comfortable with where they're sort of sitting. Our floor plans, how we're going to utilise those, our story behind our floor plans in the rooms and why they've been designed the way they've been designed. Just working on a marketing plan. As you look around the country, most halls and event centres come from a really high base, a really high calibre, the way they're put out there into the market. And so we're obviously going to be competing in that market as well. So we need to make sure that what we're offering is perceived as quite high value in the market as well. Museum discussions, which started with the Cromwell Museum sort of late last year, and we'll just keep sort of working on that together. Funding applications, we're just working through a few more pieces of funding that we're just working through as a team that we'll hopefully get, which will continue to reduce the cost of the buildings. We're just working through the health and safety and risks of the building. That's sort of starting nice and early, and the risks of this as a project and everything that comes with operating a building like this. Facility visits to get as sort of many people as possible there that we can over the next sort of 18 months, just to have a look and get a bit of a feel of what it is. Working closer with Okaha on understanding why some of the artwork and understanding the significance of, I guess, the area and the build that they've been working on as well for a good chunk of the time. And our contractors have been working with them to build that up, but it's something we're going to be looking to bring closer to us so we can sort of educate our own staff and ourselves into the significance of the site. We've been working on the personnel structure of the building as well, and sort of how that's going to sit and best operate against that 74-hour week. We've started looking at our stakeholder list and going back sort of the last sort of 5 to sort of even 8 years around different people who were involved in coming up with this final build. And so over the coming months, we'll be looking to sort of re-engage with them and start sharing the plans and sharing how it all sort of is going to come to life. And that'll include things like just a bit of collateral about the building, what it is, how it can be used, but also having some stakeholder nights getting people along and just hearing about their thoughts and how we can best bring it to life together. Sort of property use and commercial analysis, just to make sure that for stuff that we do lease, we're getting the right rates for it. Getting expressions of interest. We've had a couple of people express interest for bookings into the hall already, which was really cool. We haven't had those locked in, so I won't say that publicly, but some cool expressions of interest, which has been great. Some of the purchasing requirements and smaller things we have to look to potentially buy, you know, it could be a fridge or something like that, just some of the detail of it, we're working through those pieces. Developing the brand of the site so that when we are going out to market it, to bring, you know, I guess the commercial people to us. It's something we're just working through. Its own website, a revenue plan, how we plan to get ourselves up to sort of that $500,000, looking at sort of some kind of advisory group to help bring this to life, and then also advise to us once it is live. Then booking and invoicing systems, we have a few of those already in council. We just work through those. Position descriptions, employee staff, which will likely be from sort of July to August this year, and then a lot of technical things like directional signage, training, launch parties, and I guess go live for the community. So there's sort of in a snapshot, just to get a bit of a feel of how this project has sort of started in the last couple of months and come into life. Hopefully it sort of gives you guys a little bit of confidence to hear some of that stuff and hear that we're going to be on really close to being on track now. We get it come to life from and less than 18 months, 16 months.
I wonder who'll be sitting here then. I love it.
A quick question, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Kind of going back a little bit, but I seem to recall in December there was a bit of a disconnect with the RSA.
Mm-hmm.
Has that been resolved or?
Well, it's been resolved in there. I think we've agreed to disagree.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Must get it done.
Yeah. And again, we're obviously one of our mini groups. Close to it as well. So yeah.
So I can say they're getting everything they want and some more. Which is a good positive.
Which they'll describe as getting things they don't want.
Yeah.
Yes.
Such as what?
Can we take it for granted this new hall's going to be civil defence based as well?
It's going to be.
Like civil defence central.
Yeah, we haven't put it in there. We're going to have the conversation with the civil defence yet. We'll wait till it's built.
It'll be IL3.
Be fit for that purpose.
It'll be fit purpose for a lifeline centre. But yeah, don't know. We've got quite lucky in Cromwell with quite a few facilities around. Right. So yeah, we'll have the discussion closer to the time. I think that's kind of the details that honestly we don't need to be thinking about. We need to be thinking about getting this building up and running and
not it falling down in an earthquake.
Yeah. But it is IL3. I guess once it is up and running, we'll get that team through to have a look and see if it's suitable.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to go for a full civil defence because it's not IL4. But it is definitely a place where it'll be big enough where people can probably come together and do whatever you have to do. So
That sounds silent, but I don't see.
How many other buildings are stronger than what this one's going to be around Cromwell?
So this building's got an IL3 rating.
Yeah, how many what's the IR?
I think that's
IL. How many IL4s are there?
They're on
No, actually. Purchase.com.
So the Christchurch Council is an IL4 building.
Yeah.
And that building is built on motors and can move half a metre in every direction.
Mm-hmm.
So it can withstand a hell of a shock. But you know, we don't have any of those buildings now. And honestly, if you look at our population, I don't think it really warrants that type of facility here. In the future it might do, but not now.
Your costs would be.
Yeah.
So before you add 20 to 25% to all your structural components of a building, that would put us around about the $60 million mark.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's underweight, I'm just saying it's, I don't know, to me, it just seems like the natural choice for a base like that. To me.
Yeah, just jump, and we've quite got it suited already, as Gareth kind of pointed out, and sort of current structure works. But we wouldn't, but until we can see something running, then we can. Look. And if it makes sense, it makes sense, but for now, let's put it in separation.
So, a lot of other public facilities, maybe IL something, but probably they don't know.
Yes, so there's, like the Presbyterian Church is a single story building. It's timber framed as well, and so we don't even have to measure it. It's can withstand. It's got enough flexibility to withstand. So you know, that's a good facility, and so this building's actually got really good bones. So
I think the fire station might actually. It's certainly 3, and I've got a funny feeling that we thought before there's other buildings we've done, the fans have done, and whether we are or not doesn't matter. We won't be there.
Okay, let's move on. Thank you very much. That was really useful, and I think that it was nice and clear and easy to understand as well, because obviously we got in a bit of a quagmire with overly complex numbers a while ago, and so hopefully we haven't clarified it, simplified it down so that we're not being realistic, but that we've actually got a bit of a picture of what we're heading into. So it's great. So we need to keep on looking for who that opening act is going to be. I think Ms. Swift might be out about it, but I think we need something epic.
Best of luck.
Yeah. So thank you very much for that. We are going to go back.
Just before we do, but what, so these meetings are really good, but the key thing is not to fall in the trap of making quasi decisions here
No,
that we don't mean to.
Yeah.
So we've got to make sure we don't get ourselves in a situation where we agree to something, but it's not documented well enough.
Yeah.
It bites us in the backside later on.
Yeah.
Because it's been done, it's not pleasant. So we just need to watch to make sure we're saying we're doing the right things for the right reasons, and then find ourselves that we by default made a decision that we didn't recognise it for being that.
That's right, yeah.
So we need to be really mindful of that. And it might be that after some of these meetings that goes away, it's actually we're going to get that confirmed.
Yeah.
Because if you ask us now, we're on the right track, that's not a decision.
Yeah.
So stuff we talked about, you're not far enough down the track, but that's the risk. And we've done that before.
It has been
Unintentional.
before in workshops unintentionally. This is very much a workshop. There are no decisions. So any nods of, oh yes, we like what we're seeing.
Yeah, I appreciate that feedback, and that's where for the network we'll run our first report along with a couple of things, just to give the test run, just to see if we can get that sort of balance sort of going. So, cool.
Thank you very much. We then move to our resolution to exclude the public. Do I have a mover in a second? Thanks. Thank you. All in favour?
Aye.